How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is RuffledRowlit, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today we've got ourselves some Pokemon Legends EA speculation, rumors, all that kind of stuff. Let's get started with the first things first, which is going to be this post right here coming to us from none else than, of course, you guys may recognize it, but of course, it's going to be Central Leaks. Now, what is he talking about? Well, we may potentially have the general idea of when we could expect Pokemon Legends EA to drop. So I thought we'd take a look at this and discuss it. So he says here, and keep in mind, this is just speculation, so it could always end up being not real in the end, so just remember that. But he starts off by saying, note that for November releases, they always use winter, right? So usually when a Pokemon game gets announced, specifically for like, the year that is coming out, if it's coming out in winter or if it's coming out for November, they specifically emphasize and say winter, right? They use literally winter as the specific season. But this time they just said late 2025. Now, late 2025 can be anywhere between September and December, right? Anywhere between that time frame would be considered, technically speaking, would be considered like, late to 2025. Now, they say this is the first time they use fall. So all points to release in October or earlier. Now, what are we talking about? Well, if you go up here, this is from the Japanese Pokemon website. If you guys didn't know this, the Japanese Pokemon website for Pokemon Legends EA, which, by the way, always look up the official websites, because as you guys can see right here, if you actually go and search it up, you'll find the official website here for Pokemon Legends EA. This is the official one from themselves, the one that they run, and is specifically for the game. So it's all about the game there. But here's what they say on the website, though, which is that they don't say just late 2025. They say fall 2025, a little bit earlier than our usual winter release. So fall would fall in anywhere between that time frame of like what, October, September, October, November. So it still could be November. It still could be the usual, which if that's the case, I would be a little bit disappointed, but it's fine. So just keep it in mind. It could be still the usual, but it could also end up being something very different. We just do not know yet. We'll just have to wait and see what actually comes from it. But there is somebody else who actually did a little bit of translation on this, because I would say this information originally came from Pokisutami. So actually, shout out to Pokisutami. Give Pokisutami a follow. Give him some love. Pokisutami, she makes great translations and videos on Pokemon. So definitely check out her channel, because she made a post specifically saying Pokemon Legends EA release date. Now, while the English presents stated late 2025, the Japanese presents specified autumn. The Japanese autumn technically starts on September 23rd and is usually considered the last to last until sometime around November. So it still probably is going to be a regular November release, probably if they say late 2025, because late, again, it would be anywhere between that, September, October, November, December timeframe, because that's the second half of the year, and that's like late would actually be October, November, December, right? So around then. So it's probably still going to be a regular release like schedule, which is a little bit unfortunate, because that means we're going to have to wait a long year for us to actually see this game, because there's another aspect you got to keep in mind, which is that this is the only Pokemon game for this year. I know they announced Pokemon Champions, but that game is most likely not going to be coming out until next year alongside Generation 10, because yes, the fact that we're getting Legends EA this year, that pretty much confirms that we're going to be getting Pokemon, Gen 10 next year. Like, ZA being the only game for this year means Gen 10 100% confirmed for next year, by the way, like 100% confirmed. And also, based on some of the stuff we've learned now, some of the crazy leaks that have happened, because we're going to talk about some of the leak stuff that actually may give us some hints for what we should expect, by the way. But this is crazy, because now we know it's coming out autumn, and that again could be still November. But hopefully this game comes out in like October. That would be really good, because it will be a good time frame as well. Plus, we don't really know when the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out, because there is a chance that Legends EA may get a Switch 2 version. We're not talking about like that it's going to be exclusive Switch 2 or anything like that. No. That's going to get a version that's playable on there, or because they don't usually do versions like that. Pokemon doesn't really do that. They just release the game for the console at the time that they're working for, and that's about it. But given that the Switch 2 is going to have the backwards compatibility, it kind of makes it pointless unless they make an enhanced version, which would be really weird, because that's not something they usually do. But maybe that's why they took this extra time to work on the game. Like, maybe that's why they have this extra year worth of time to specifically try their best at making this thing as good as possible and have a Switch 2 optimized version ready to go that has like better looking graphics or something like that. But that's some of the first things. And again, we have some thoughts about this from Soul Silver, who says, okay, again, by the way, shout out to Soul. He is a leak analyst, as I like to call him, but he says, this is huge. The most depressing part of the presents for me was the ZA late 2025 release window. But if this is a translation, this translation is precise, we could still get a September or possibly even late August release, in my honest opinion. Now, the good thing about them being ambiguous on the exact date is that it means they themselves probably haven't even locked down the date. So they have left it open in case they need to change it. So yes, there is a chance, by the way, there's a chance that they might be done with this game much faster than they anticipate, or there's a chance that this game is still needs a lot of work before it's ready to be shipped. So that's why they need the until the end of the year to still ship it and get it ready. Because remember, Pokemon Champions is currently in development. Like, it's started development. Like, it's currently, like, you know, the process of development, which means that game is not going to be out until like sometime next year, maybe even 2027. Who knows? Because they didn't give it any dates on Pokemon Champions. They didn't give any info. It's got to be a game that either comes out before Gen 10 or after Gen 10. I think the most logical thing would be before Gen 10 comes out. So like slightly before next year, like next year, slightly before that would make the most sense. And the reason I say it would make the most sense is mainly one big thing, which is then they can have an excuse for you to buy the next generation to transfer Pokemon into home and then into Pokemon Champions from the next gen game, because that might be the only way to get certain Pokemon, because that's a whole thing. But again, it is interesting because I do also think the reason they may not have a release date is maybe they are waiting for the Switch 2 announcement and seeing, like, you know, like waiting until that happens. And then maybe based on that, they'll kind of after that give us info. If you're also wondering when will we actually get news, there are like 3 points in time for the rest of this year that you can expect news. Number one would be maybe potentially during the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct that's happening specifically later in April. So on April 2nd, so literally we are a month plus away at this point, a month and like 2 days. So we're a month away from that because we're about to start March tomorrow, but we are a bit of time away from that. But in that that Nintendo like Direct is when we possibly could see something. It's mostly going to focus, of course, that Direct's going to mostly focus on the Switch itself, talking about the console, talking about how it's going to function, and the price, of course, and the release date. But there is always a chance they could announce some games there because, of course, one of the biggest things about, you know, a new console is what are some of the new games? Well, obviously, we know one of those games, 100% we know for a fact, is Mario Kart 9, which is, you know, already been confirmed through like the reveal of the Switch 2. But then the other thing is, what are some other stuff? Well, one of the things you can get people to get excited about is, hey, we're going to have a Legend ZA compatible specific version for Switch 2 that's going to be improved. And that might explain why it might take a bit longer for us to get this release date. Either way, that's some of the thoughts though, and I'd love to know what you guys think about it, because I think it's just really interesting. Next up is some details that may have been overlooked in the trailer for specifically Pokemon Legends ZA, which is, if you guys didn't notice it, there is something very special, as seen here by Necrofelipe, and I think a lot of other people also realized it. I think Toyoko, one of our friends, he actually noticed it too, which is another point of attention in ZA is that they will finally reflect the anime or the franchise concept. Pokemon do not faint and disappear. When you defeat a Pokemon, they become dazed, so it will finally don't have to calculate my damage to get health bar in the red before capture. So yes, ZA is trying something where basically when you attack a Pokemon, it's not just going to instantly faint. Like if you make it faint, it's not going to disappear and you've lost the chance of catching it. No, actually, you're still going to be able to catch it. It's just going to be dazed, sort of like going crazy, right? Like, that's so cool because that's what Pokemon should have always done. I don't know why they ever had it so Pokemon disappear. I mean, I guess there's a reason for it, but I think it's really cool that they're finally implementing something like this, where the Pokemon will not just disappear after fainting, it actually just stays dazed and is still there, which is really cool. I love that. I think it's great, and I really, really, really hope they keep this for Generation 10, and it's not just a feature that they remove, because remember, they did the same thing in Legends Arceus. They introduced, not this feature, but just other features. They introduced really cool features, and then they destroy them, which is, yeah, what can I say? It's a little frustrating. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little frustrating, but it's fine because we can move on to... So, if you guys did not know this, yesterday, before we even got the trailer, somebody actually leaked the starters, and this image, by the way. Somebody actually leaked this image. You guys can see the proof of it. This was posted at 8:55 here yesterday, before the actual, like, trailer reveal, and it's from that giant, like, Terra leak that happened, right? It's that giant Terra leak, and the guy just decided to say, like, you know, screw it, might as well post this. That is a translator of the Pokemon Company, blah, blah. You know the drill, enjoy. And then he posted the picture of these Ikaku ZA starters, and there they were. So he literally already had his hands on this. Like, somebody already had this, and this is probably from that giant, like, massive leak that came out. Like, you guys you will remember, of course, the giant Terra leak that happened last year with Game Freak getting all their files and stuff just taken from them and hacked and stolen. Well, guess what? Somebody literally had access to it. So there you go. It literally happened. Like it's a real thing. It's there. So there you go. But yeah, it's interesting. It's intriguing. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on it, because this means that there are people out there who have genuine leaks. So if we do see leaks, I think this is the point of contention where I would say, this is why I like covering leaks, because there's always a chance that some of those weird 4chan posts can be real. This is proof of it. This is an actual leak that happened before the reveal. This genuinely came out before. So the proof is in the pudding, okay? It's there. It actually can happen. You just gotta, you know, wait for it and hope that you get the right one, because it's not always guaranteed that it is or isn't gonna happen. But there you go. There's that. Now, let's move on to something a little bit more different, which is going to be this post right here. Now, this is coming to us, or not to us specifically, but just coming from Pragmagic, who makes some great Pokemon videos, who says, I'm starting to see why we got 2 Gen 2 starters. And this is mainly because people are seeing a lot of similarities in design between Ethan, Lyra, as well as the new characters, the playable characters we play as. People are noticing that they look very very similar. Very, very similar, which is really cool, but that's not really where it ends, though. There is actually even more comparisons. Some people have noticed that they actually look like Sycamore, as well as your mom, or, well, I guess Serena's mom, depending on what way you want to, you know, put it. But, like, they kind of look like them. Like, if you actually compare Sycamore to the male characters, same kind of hair color, same kind of hairstyle, and everything. Like, it's got the vibe going down for him. Also, the outfits of our characters, if you haven't noticed, do have the Zygarde colors, the black and, you know, the black and green, which is very much like present in their outfits. Somebody even made a fun joke about like her belt kind of looking like it's supposed to be like Dolce & Gabbana or something, or like something like that. I don't know. I don't really keep up with fancy, you know, fancy schmancy stuff like that. But yeah, nonetheless, though, there does seem to be a correlation between the actual playable characters and the people they might be based on. So hey, are they our parents technically still? Is Sycamore? Did Sycamore do the dirty deeds? I mean, hey man, I don't know, dude. It's pretty funny, but again, it's not the only thing, right? So of course we have this one, which is, are we playing as an alternate universe version of Sycamore, or his kids, or what? Who would be their mom is the question, right? But yes, they are kind of familiar, and shout out, by the way, to Kayla for sharing this as well. And also down here, there is some other combinations. For example, oh, she's probably some combination of Chris and Lyra, whether via parent or an alternate universe version or something. I'm seeing some interesting connections here. Professors, the starters, I guess I've got a video to make. And yes, so there is similarities between both, like, the characters have similarities to both Ethan, Lyra, as well as Sycamore and Serena's mom, who I forget the name of. But there is actual connections to be made there. But that's not the only ones, though. Obviously, we know these. These are obvious ones, and these. But there is something else, and it's about these guys. Now, these are your rivals. Now, you may notice, if we compare our rivals here, if we open up a picture of them, and we open up the picture of the rivals here, you may notice that the rivals are actually, and this is the crazy part, it's the same character. Our character is the rival. Like, if you look at the playable character, it's the same rival, it's just the inverted colors, right? Like, if you invert the colors on this character right here, they will have the colors of these guys. Like, literally, if you go into Photoshop and invert them, their colors will match. And if you look at their hairstyles, they're actually the same, just without hats. So our characters here, they got hats on, but if you look at like the style of the hair, it looks exactly the same as these guys. You've got the ponytail for the female character with 2 strands in the front and these sort of like puffing up ones on the back. And same thing with the you know, the rival. You got 2 strands in the front and 2 puffy ones in the back. Then you got the male character who has these sort of like, I don't even know what to call that, the little looping part on the side here. That's the same thing, and the back hair is there too. So yes, basically they're the counterparts of each other, which, by the way, is technically making sense. We are the playable characters in this game are actually these two. Now, what is interesting about these two as well is their names. Their name is Urbane and Tawny. Now, you may not notice it, but if you listen to those names really quick, Urbane, urban, right? And Tawny is towny. So that's the joke here. It's supposed to be like one is urban, one is a towny. That's supposed to be the joke they're kind of going for here, which is kind of intriguing because it may give us some insight also to what the rivals might function like, because these rivals, they are rivals. They do look different than us, which is really interesting because if you look back at Legends Arceus, in that game, if you look at like, what was it, like Akari and the other character, like the male and female character, both of them, like depending on which one you choose, the opposite gender will be your rival, but if you choose the opposite gender, like it's basically like Brendan and May. It's the same principle, right? Like the other playable character is both your rival as well as a protagonist. But what they did here was the same thing, but they still made them kind of their own unique characters with unique outfits and unique hair color and, you know, like eye color. So they basically inverted them, made them into new characters, but they're technically still you, which is so freaking cool, and I love it. I love that they did this. It is such these small minutia details with Pokemon that I really freaking love, and I love when they do it. So honestly, mad props for this. I think it's really sick. But that's not the only thing, though. We may have also missed the fact that we have the official artworks for the trainers in Pokemon Champions. Yes, we kind of missed to mention these yesterday. I didn't bring them up, but these guys are going to be the kind of, you know, main trainers that you're going to be having in that game. Now, Champions, we still do not know enough about it, but it's probably going to be the future of Pokemon competitive, like VGC and stuff like that. It's basically Pokemon Stadium, but it's going to be multiplayer, and it's going to be something that's playable on both, you know, mobile and on the Switch, of course, which is cool, but there are a few things we can talk about that may be a bit of an issue, but nonetheless, though, it's still cool. We're like, it's still so freaking cool, man. So I want to know your guys' thoughts and opinions. I have so many more things to cover. There's just so much stuff. I cannot wait to go through everything. But yes, here again is the post, and you guys can see this was posted 22 hours ago. So this would have been like, you know, I'm not sure like when this tweet came out. It was like 3:43, so it came out after, but the actual post again came out before. So yes, somebody did already have access to this ahead of time, which is crazy. But that's not where things end. We do have one last thing I want to mention before we end this video off, which is going to be this right here. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you have something very interesting going on with Chikorita. There is a specific move on Chikorita which it doesn't normally learn. Whoopsie, I just shifted into the Shadow Realm. Let's see. So, you may notice that right down here, if you look at what movesets Chikorita's got, it has Disarming Voice, a move that it normally should not have, which would imply, and keep in mind Disarming Voice is a specifically Fairy-type move, which would imply that, yes, we might be getting a Grass Fairy Meganium, which, of course, the question then is going to be a regional form, or is it going to be a Mega? I'm going to be real with you. I'm calling it right now. It's going to be a Mega. I don't think we're going to see a regional form. I don't think they're going to do regional forms for this game, and the main reason for also them not doing that makes sense because it's going to be, the main thing about this game is Mega Evolution. Also, think about this. Lumio City, this is just Lumio City a few years in the future. It's not far enough in the future where I think Pokemon would have changed that much, but definitely new Megas may have actually appeared. So I doubt that we're going to be seeing like a regional form, but I do think we might get a Mega Grass Fairy Chikorita, or Meganium in this case, sorry. So I think that may definitely happen. And also, another thing that's actually pointed out in this same picture by, of course, our boy Arrow, a friend of ours, is that specifically if you actually take a look at some of the stuff going on right here, which is that the battles are actually on a real-time recharge. So yes, your battles, when you're doing battles in this game, you're not going to be using turn-based combat. Instead, it's a real-time battle where you don't have the PP anymore. Small PP. But yeah, you don't have PP to use anymore. You actually just use your moves and then they go on a cooldown. If you've ever played World of Warcraft, it basically functions similarly to that. That's like the closest thing that I can compare it to if I was to actually compare it to really anything. It's like the closest thing, which is really cool, but I really don't know if they're going to keep this feature going forward. Remember, Legends Arceus also introduced like really cool features, like the ability to walk around with your character while your Pokemon was still fighting in a battle with another Pokemon in the open world. But they did kind of get rid of that, didn't they? They sort of deleted and got rid of that, which is unfortunate. But I think this is a cool feature that maybe could return in the future. Maybe not for Gen 10, but beyond into the future, beyond Gen 10, which I'd love. But we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to summarize the video. I'll be also live streaming after this video goes up. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out, and bye-bye.